Hello and welcome back to Flight Sim World. So this is going to be a follow-up video to the one that I made a couple of weeks ago. The reason I'm making this video is because there was a couple of features that I missed and I'd like to demonstrate those briefly to give the simulator full fair coverage. However, I do feel that enough time has passed and I've had enough time with the game to give my thoughts and opinions about it, so I'll be doing that in a few minutes time. Okay, so first of all, if we go into free flight here, now it turns out that you can actually customize what you can do with the aircraft and the weather conditions, so allow me to demonstrate. So if I go in and just choose any aircraft, let's choose Cherokee for example. What we can do now is you'll notice that we do have a config button here and you can actually change some of the settings of the aircraft. So if we go into this, the first kind of tab that you see here is the POH, which gives you a bunch of information, performance information about the aircraft. You also get a nice kind of view of the aircraft model there as well. The next tab you have quick edit, and you've got these sliders so you can set the fuel to certain presets there. You can also set failures and stuff as well. If you want a bit more control, each of these options has its own separate tab, so you can adjust the fuel loads independently. You can adjust payloads. £170? Do you mind? I'm 169, thank you very much. And you can also go in and set the failures. So the failures, you can either start them as failed, you can arm them, and you can set them to fail between a certain time window. So between like maybe 10 minutes and 20 minutes after starting the flight, at some point the airspeed indicator will fail any random time between 10 and 20 minutes into the flight. And then also last tab there you got livery, so you can change the paint scheme. I'm not sure if you can go in and then also change the tail number yet, but you can certainly select a different paint scheme from there. Weather is the same. First of all, what you need to do is jump in and just select one of the presets, but then you see we've got a config button here as well, so you can jump into the config there and you can change the visibility, precipitation, clouds, wind speeds and wind direction, like so. You can also go in and change the time and season. Yeah, let's keep those, why not? So you notice here that we can do daytime, dawn, daytime, dusk, nights. We can change the season there as well. Oops, looks like we've got a bit of raw code there. I'm sure that'll be patched out at some point. But you can go in and change the dates, the time, and you've got the calendar there as well if you want to set things very specifically there. Up top we've got some more tabs, but you cannot click on any of these yet, so I guess these will give you more kind of more detailed control over things like the clouds, winds, temperatures and visibility. So you can go in there. And one other feature that one of my commenters pointed out to me, if you can go in and select the departure report, is that VORs and NDBs and nav aids on the radio do actually show up, but what you need to do is you need to zoom in quite close. So if we go down here to the southwest of Scotland, for example, we've got a VOR down here which is Turnberry, which is where the famous Scottish golf course is. However, if you select that on the flight plan, if we back out here, you see it's just Inverness to Prestwick. It doesn't highlight VORs or NDBs as waypoints along the flight plan. So again, that's something that will probably be developed there, but you can see there we've got a VOR station there, we've got an NDB there, so they do show up. You just need to zoom in on the map to be able to see them. One other thing while we're here on the free flight screen is you see after you've chosen an airport, we do have a config button here. This one doesn't work, so it doesn't look like you're able to select or specifically choose a starting position at an airport. For example, we're not allowed, we don't have the option yet to go and start at a particular gate or a ramp or in a particular parking space or choose which runway we want to start on. I believe at the moment the sim just chooses the most appropriate runway based on weather conditions. So that's everything in the free flight screen. There is one more sort of small feature which I just want to show off very quickly, so I'm just going to cut the video here until we're in the aircraft. Okay, and here we are in the Piper Cherokee. Now what I want to show off is if we get rid of the yokes there, if you have a look down here at the circuit breaker panel or the fuse panel, check this out. The fuses are functional. And I don't know how fuses work. I'm not an expert with electronics in any way, so I don't know if these are all fully functional yet or not. For example, if I pull out the Navcom 1 fuse there, the radio stays on. I'm not sure if that's realistic or not. I'm not sure if the fuse pops out, if the radio should just go dead or not. So I'm not sure if they all fully work yet. I know that if I grab the one for the transponder, so yeah, if you keep an eye on the transponder here, if I pull that out, you see the transponder code goes dead. And if I try and set it back to VFR, which is 1200, it keeps flicking to 0. So if I put that back in, then I can choose the code. So as I said, I'm not sure if they're all fully functional yet or if they're working accurately or not, but yeah, it's a cool little feature that I noticed after recording my main video. So after spending 17 hours in the game, what do I think of it? For me personally, Flight Sim World in its current state is a real disappointment. One of my gut reactions and initial impressions from the game is that it is FSX with a couple of add-ons. However, if you look back at FSX in its default state and Flight Sim World in its default state, I do think it is a better looking sim. As someone who appreciates GA aviation and flying, having more detailed scenery by default makes for a better environment to fly low and slow in. One of the first gripes that I had with Flight Sim World, however, is the lack of diverse content. By that I mean a lack of different aircraft and different technology being displayed. All of the aircraft in Flight Sim World are piston engine propeller aircraft. I personally was hoping to see just at least one turboprop, because that would indicate that Dovetail have modelled turbine engines, i.e. jet engines, and that would give us real, tangible proof that they have the foundation to build on to create more turbine engine aircraft, such as more turboprops and commercial airlines like Boeings and Airbuses, but we don't see that in the game. Now it could be that most of the work that Dovetail have done up to now has all been behind the scenes stuff, such as reprogramming of the game engine. They have announced that they've converted the engine to be a 64-bit application. They've also made changes to the graphics rendering technology, and to be fair, they do have a couple of new features, such as the Garmin G500 system in the Piper Seneca, albeit it doesn't work perfectly yet, and also, as I showed earlier, working circuit breakers. Now, I'm not sure how applicable circuit breakers are in the grand scheme of things. I don't know how often pilots are required to work with them during the course of a flight, but it is good to see that the underlying code has been extended to allow those to function. That could open the door to more complex aircraft further down the line. That said, I do believe that Flight Sim World was released way too early. Dovetail Games could have got a much more favourable reaction from the Flight Sim community if they had more content and more to show with Flight Sim World. And that leads me on to what is probably my biggest concern with Dovetail Games and Flight Sim World. Now, everything I say from this point onwards is not a personal attack on Dovetail Games or any of its staff, but my interpretation of information that's publicly available. The biggest issue for me is that there seems to be a disparity or a difference between what Dovetail are saying in various official announcements and what they've actually delivered so far. And I believe that this is eroding trust in the community and the belief that they will deliver a high quality flight simulation product in the future. For example, on the 23rd of November 2016, Dovetail posted an announcement on Steam saying, "Earlier this year, we announced the development of our new flight simulator, which generated an incredible amount of excitement in the community. We would like to thank you for all the tremendous amount of interest and support we have received so far. Based on your feedback, we have been focusing on 3 key areas: visuals, remember that's going to be important, performance, and experience, all of which are instrumental to the hobby. In order to further enhance these areas, we have made the decision to postpone the release of this project. In the meantime, we can expect to have a detailed development update for you in the new year." Another point worth remembering. "As a team, we're critically excited. Have a great holiday season. Thank you very much." So they said there that there would be a detailed announcement of the new year. However, the first official communication that I can find relating to Dovetail Games Flight Sim World is on the 4th of May 2017, which is 5 months after New Year. Now, there could have been an announcement elsewhere that I missed, but this is going by official channels on the FSX Steam page and the Dovetail Games news page on their company website. Next, I want to highlight some comments that were made in the Flight Sim World announcement video that was released.
Flight Sim World for me is an incredibly exciting challenge. It's about moving flight simulation forwards. We're bringing Flight Sim World to early access. We believe it makes no sense to work in isolation, so we wish to work with the community, engage with them to shape the future of Flight Sim World over the coming weeks and months.
Things have changed dramatically in the flight simulation space over recent years, not just in hardware configurations and the available power, but in the demands of the audience. And what we're trying to do at Dovetail is provide a platform that will stand the test of time over the next 5-10 years.
Dovetail has listened a lot to the community. Being able to unleash what the hardware can do today is very good for the longevity. So we moved from DirectX 9 to DirectX 11. We changed from a 32-bit application to a 64-bit application, and we also tried to rebalance the usage between the CPU and the GPU.
What our flight sim offers is the opportunity to really appreciate the aircraft in a way not previously possible. We've integrated a host of new technologies: physically based rendering, image-based lighting, ambient occlusion.
We've captured even minute details in the aircraft, such as gauges wobbling under motion, the perspex shimmers. The systems in the airplanes are all faithfully represented.
You really feel as though you're in that cockpit at 3,000 feet.
We work with a number of third-party developers who have years of experience of creating top-quality flight simulation content, to the extent that we've engaged with some of them to actually provide content which is part of the core Flight Sim World software.
As a pilot, you care hugely about the environment that's around you. It has to be accurately portrayed in Flight Sim World in order for you to fear it.
So before Flight Sim World was released, a lot of people were critiquing the announcements and what the game would feature before it was even released, and there was a mixed sentiment amongst the Flight Sim community. Now, Dovetail Games have explicitly said in their announcement that they value the community input and they are aware of what the community is saying. So they must have known how important it was, given the feeling in the community, they must have known how important it was to make a great first impression with Flight Sim World. And this is what bothers me. So you've postponed the game to work on visuals. You highlight that you're capturing all of the small details in an aircraft. The cockpit environment is one of the most fundamental parts of flight simulation. So why is it that when I'm sat here in a Piper Malibu Mirage that's staring me in the face, front and center, we have two switches with completely illegible text on them? And these aren't switches just for show, these actually do things. But I have no idea what they do because I cannot read this text on the switches. And it's not just those two switches. If we have a look up top, we've got some overhead switches, which are all blurry. Like, they all function? What do these all do? I don't know. And again, on the right hand side as well. Like, some of these switches don't work, but what do they do? I can barely tell. You know, it's very poor attention to detail here, guys. And it's not just one aircraft. This is the Vans RV-7A aerobatic experimental aircraft. And again, we've got glaring mistakes. Like, I've got all these switches. Like, these all work, they all do something, but what do they do? There's no labels. I don't know what these switches are, what the purpose of all of them is. I've got lights up here. I've got, you know, red light. Red usually means something bad is going on, but I don't know because there's no label on the light. I can't tell what's going on. Looking at the right hand side, we've got all these circuit breakers. They all pop out, they all pop in, but what do they do? What do they correlate to? I have no idea. You know, like, let me put a picture of a real Vans RV-7A cockpit on the screen just now so you can see. Now, because it's an experimental aircraft, you get glass cockpit versions, you get steam gauge cockpit versions, you get different types of switches, but you can see they're all labelled. Like it should be clear what each switch does, and in this cockpit, it isn't clear. I mean, so I was seeing this and I was like pretty much pulling my hair out, thinking like, actually maybe it might just be an issue on my end. Maybe it's a problem with my game. Maybe a file has become corrupted, or perhaps something didn't install properly. Except that's not the problem, because take a look at this. So what you can see on the screen just now is a live stream that Dovetail themselves did on Twitch last week, where you have one of the developers flying that same aircraft, the RV-7A. Now look very closely at the panel, look at the lights. There's no labels there. Look at the switches. Again, there's no labels. So it's not just my computer. This is on the official development team. This is something they're publicly displaying to the world. Dovetail, these are really stupid mistakes that you've let through, and it demonstrates that you've got no quality assurance in place whatsoever. I mean, how has no one at the company seen issues like this? I mean, you guys say that you want to create the simulator platform to last the next 5-10 years. That's the legacy that you're trying to pursue. And given how much scrutiny the community was giving this game and Dovetail as a company before its release, you had to make the best impression possible, and you didn't. I don't know. I don't understand what decisions are being made at Dovetail, but things don't look good. I don't know if higher powers forced the flight sim side of the business to release the product early, but it's barely a product, and I have genuine doubts on whether Flight Sim World will ever release as a fully featured product. I mean, let's take a look at player numbers, for example. So this is a website, steamcharts.com. What it does is it calculates, or it monitors the number of concurrent players playing a particular game which is available on Steam. So concurrent players meaning the number of people playing the game at the same time. So I've done a search here for Microsoft Flight Simulator X Steam Edition, and we can see that we've got 3,271 people currently playing this at the same time. So that means there's 3,200 people all playing FSX at exactly the same time. You can see the chart here, it kind of ebbs and flows depending on whatever time it is in the world, but you can see that it's kind of averaging about maybe 3,000 people per day, between 3,000 and 4,000 people per day, and it's quite a consistent up and down, up and down. If you look back a month ago, there's a pretty consistent sort of tempo there. You've got just under 3,000 people there, you've got 3,200, so you've got that there. Now if we take a look at Flight Sim World, look at this, 24-hour peak. At most there was 100 people playing the game at any one time, and if we go back a month you could see that it started off at 600 on release day, and you can see there's this kind of general downwards trends to where it's sort of coming down. So you're getting, some days there's less than 100 people playing this. So like that's showing that the interest in FSX is steady, it's consistent, and it's 3,200 people playing at any one time, which is fairly good. That's it makes FSX one of the top 100 games on Steam. Flight Sim World, it's dropped from 600 down to barely 100 at times. So a lot of people are have given up or are not playing Flight Sim World, and it's not just the Flight Sim side of Dovetail's business which is seeing this trend. If we take a look at Train Simulator, which is what Dovetail are originally known for, is the first product that they did, is the Train Simulator franchise of games. And you can see if we look past the past 7 days, we've got 1,500 people approximately playing at any one time. Now this doesn't correlate to total number of players. Again, this is concurrent players, so this is how many people are playing at any one time, and it's a kind of pretty consistent 1,500. If we look at Train Sim World, which is Dovetail's new product, or newest product, it was released a few months ago. It's like FSW but for train simulation, and you can see that again, playing 6 hours ago, it's down to 78. Now we had 163, but I saw that there was an update released to Train Sim World, so it generated some interest, but then you can see that it's dropped off again. You can see it's about 100, about 100. It's kind of similar numbers playing the newer Train Sim world. So they've seen this trend on both sides of the Dovetail business. Their Flight Sim, their old Flight Sim game is performing consistently, and their old Train Simulator game is performing consistently. The new Flight Sim game really isn't, and the new Train Sim game, until the recent update, really wasn't doing well. So it appears that, flight simmers and train simmers who have invested tens, hundreds, if not thousands of hours into either FSX or Train Simulator, and potentially even invested hundreds or thousands of pounds worth of money, dollars, euros, whatever, they're very loyal to those games. They've got a lot invested in those older games, and Dovetail's two newest products appear by player numbers to be completely flopping. So I don't know what the future holds, but I hope that Dovetail have a backlog of impressive updates that they can roll out rapidly, because I fear that if development of Flight Sim World is slow, then they'll lose any supporters they had, and more simmers will migrate to the likes of Prepared and X-Plane. Now, there is more that I've thought of, but I don't feel that it's appropriate to say in this video, so I'm going to wrap things up there. So, massive thank you to all of my supporters on Patreon, and a big thank you to all of you watching. So, thank you all very much for watching. Take care out there, and I will catch you all later.